a nice sunny day. A winter at the moment, but my studio does get a lot of nice light. Anyway, I finished the next artwork. You can see I've got all of my prints finally done. So it's taken quite a long time. It's quite a lot of layers. I think it was about 8 layers in total on the screen print. So the studio is always a little bit of a mess after I've finished screen printing, as you can see. So now I'm gonna just tidy up everything, and then I'll make some space and we'll get started with some etching. So this is something that I've built. This is a DIY proofing press slash etching press. You can see here. I'm going to be bringing out a video on this on the full build soon, but for now I want to do some more test prints, because all I've done at the moment is I've just done some small little etching plates and test prints, and they come out good, but I want to try and print something a little bit bigger. So I've got a bigger bit of metal. So what we're going to do is probably just do some abstract random etching on this metal today, and then if we've got enough time we'll hopefully print it, or maybe we'll do the printing tomorrow. But for now I just want to get everything cleaned up and try and make this studio neat and tidy, because I'm terrible at keeping things clean and in order. So something I'm going to start trying to do a little bit more is to actually save a lot of my test prints. I've usually just chucked them away from old designs, but actually using the paper comes in handy when you do need to do some test prints. When you're first laying down colours, when you're screen printing, you can just use this paper and you can just get your ink down. So when you're doing like gradients, for instance, you need things to start blending. You can use up these sheets before you actually print your actual artwork. And what we've discovered, my girlfriend, is she started to make her own little books and sketchbooks. If you just kind of crop these, once you start cropping it, you create really interesting layouts and patterns that you might not have seen. You can see that over maybe the course of 3 or 4 projects, once I start layering up lots of different colours and designs and shapes, you start to get some, you start to create kind of new artwork essentially. And using cropping as well, you can create some really nice, interesting things. So I'm going to be keeping all of this. I've got a drawer dedicated to scrap paper now. Another thing I seem to be building a bigger collection of is ink pots. I've started off with just kind of the Dalerowny pots, but during every single project I end up kind of mixing up my own colours. I'm just using some old, we've got here coconut oil, lots of coconut oil actually, some yogurt pots and things like that. But I'm kind of running out of space on this shelf here. So the plan is I'm going to put a small shelf all the way up at the top here, and I think that's where we're going to store all of the paint, because this is getting a little bit overcrowded. And there's been a few instances where I've knocked a pot over and you can see it's fallen over and it's gone on my press and it went onto the carpet. Now this carpet is a complete write-off. You can see I've got a nice bit of ink stains. I've got some ink stains there, some ink stains there. So yeah, I'm kind of just using this carpet as like a cleaning mat at the moment. It's ruined, so we'll just keep it as it is. There's not really too much to do with that. Okay, so now I'm going to have to put all of these ink pots onto this shelf. I'm going to have to try and move this around a little bit and find space for all of them. And then we can start cleaning up the rest of the table and I've got loads of test prints here that I need to find a space for. So this is one of the problems with using cheap photocopier paper when you're trying to do some etchings, is when you wet the paper it always just curls up and it makes it really difficult to store. You can see that I've just done some random test prints here just to test out this press that I'm building. But yeah, I need to try and flatten them. I'm not too sure what to do. The problem is as well is obviously when you're using like relief and etching inks is they take absolutely ages to dry. So I can't just kind of print them and then put them away. I have to leave them out all to kind of dry, and it takes a good 3, 4, 5 days. I would like to keep them. As I said, I like to kind of keep these things so I can make maybe some books, some art books in the future and crop it down. Maybe I'll just stack them all up and then I'll put them in the book press to keep them a little bit flatter, and then I can just store them away. But yeah, I need to get rid of these because they've just been currently sitting on my trimmer here drying, and it's really not very good to have all of these inky things. I mean, as you can see, I just dropped it all, and these things, they're still wet. That's been out for about over a week now. I'm going to have to leave that somewhere to dry. It's a really thick layer of ink, but I was just cleaning up and I wanted to kind of collect the ink. This is another, that's just a monotype. This one, oh, it's still a little bit wet here. And this one as well. This one, oh, that's dry. Okay, well, yeah, looks like some of these are still going to have to be left out to dry. This is all kind of new to me, doing this type of relief printing, intaglio type of stuff. I didn't do any while I was in university. I didn't do any intaglio. I didn't do any etchings or anything like that. I did do some relief printing. You know, I just love kind of the tactile and textures that you get doing this type of relief and intaglio stuff. Is really good. I'm looking forward to experimenting with this a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, just like the textures that you can pick up, it's so nice. I'm gonna need to get a scanner because I would like to scan all of these textures. And you can see actually that this week we put up one of my relief etchings here. So it's finally got a place, which is nice. Oh, I forgot to mention actually, but I want to give a shout out to Ironbridge or Gunning Arts. They were so kind. So I posted in Facebook on a printmaking group and I was asking, what can you use as a alternative to etching blankets? Because, you know, I've built this press, I'm trying to do it on a cheap. What can you use? And people suggested yoga mats and towels and all sorts of things. Jenny from Gunning Arts, she sent me a message and said, hey, we've got some offcuts. Be happy to send them to you. I thought it was just going to be kind of like their cheap PVC blanket, but they've actually sent me offcuts of their proper blankets, and they're really nice. So I just want to say thank you to Jenny for sending these. This is amazing. I'm really looking forward to testing these out. And yeah, I would highly recommend go over to their website. Take a look at their presses. I wish I could afford one of their presses. They look amazing. They've got lots of printmaking supplies. And they also do lots of other things to do with printmaking. They've got like exhibition space and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, check them out. But anyway, I think that I've got space is all nice and clean now. You can see a nice clean floor. Everything's been put away. So we can now start with the printing. So the way that I've got it set up is I've got my table, and what I'm going to do is I've got this section which is for inking, and then over there is where I wet my paper. You can see I just give it a little spray with the spray bottle. I wet the paper and then I print it. So this table is kind of big enough to do it. I would like a little bit more of a bigger glass, so you've got more space for inking and mixing colours. But yeah, this is the setup. This is what we're going to do. So now let's try and do something with this metal. We'll etch it and see what we come up with. So we've cut the vinyl with the Silhouette Cameo. I've been using it over the last month or so, the Cameo. It's really nice. I'm going to do a full review of it. I definitely don't get the most out of it, but for just little things like this, when you just need to cut a little bit of vinyl, it does such a good job. And what we're going to do is we're just going to use some copper sulfate. I've done videos on this stuff before, and we're just going to etch it. This is a basic design, but I'm going to leave it at different angles and see if I can get some different tones by etching across the plate for different durations of time. You'll get what I mean when I actually got it all set up. But let's get this weighed out. We need to get some table salt and some water, mix it all in here, and then we can etch this plate. Much this is precisely, you don't need too much. You just want a nice bluish green solution here. There we go. So we've got to give it a few minutes, because as you can see all the salt there at the bottom, it needs to dissolve into the solution. Once it's all dissolved, we'll go ahead and start etching it. We'll just leave it in there just a little bit. So what I want to start doing is I want to start creating lines across the plate, and I want to start creating different layers. So after a few minutes I'll leave it in here, and then I might move it to another angle like that, and that will create another new layer. And essentially I just want to go across the plate and create different layers, so I get different tones when I etch it. That's kind of my plan for this, just to try and keep it abstract, try and keep it simple. So what we're going to do is I'll leave it in here. I'm going to do about 5 minutes like this, just so I can see what kind of bite I get into the plate, and then I'll know how long I need to keep it in each direction that I move it into. And obviously you can always change it. You know, for instance, if you want a nice dark layer, you could keep it in there for say 10 minutes, and then if you want a lighter tone, you could keep it in there for like 5 minutes. It's just all about experimentation. This is what I really love about this type of process with printmaking. It's very hands-on, it's very experimental. You know, you can leave it in there for as long as you want, and you get a tone. You can start layering things on top of one another. Different metals as well, they create different tones and bites. So it's really cool. And you can see there's a reaction taking place. Not sure if you can see all the little bubbles coming up here. Let's take a look at it. So you might not be able to see that, but you can see it's created a very fine bite, and that is tone that will come up in the plate. So it was a few minutes. I think once I start layering it at different angles, it will start to build up. Doesn't look like there's that much difference in tone, but we're going to print it. I'm going to keep this vinyl on because I got a feeling it's got to go back in the etching bar for longer. You can see there is some sort of difference in tone though. Some areas look like they will print a little bit darker. So I've only got one colour. It's the only etching ink that I've got. I do need to get some more. As I said, I haven't really done much etching, so that's why I don't have too many colours. Let's ink this up. I forgot to use my barrier cream. Whenever you're doing printmaking with like linseed oil inks, the safe wash stuff, it is really easy to wash off your hands with soap and water, but the oil-based stuff is much more difficult. So just get some barrier cream. Basically, this, I think it acts as a barrier, obviously, on your skin, so the ink can't get into your pores, and it won't come like, not that it stains it, but it's really difficult to get off. So I forgot. I just bought this actually. It was just some like natural Bauman's Skin Salvation. And it's just a barrier cream. So put this on. You should really wear gloves, but I don't like to wear gloves too much because my hands get too sweaty. I'm trying to do this one-handed, but you get the idea. I'm drying the paper basically. Anyway. Let's see how this prints. Needs a lot of force. Yeah, not too good, but it prints, which is pretty cool. To be honest with you, I wasn't expecting too much in terms of clear tonal lines in the etching. I think it needs to be in there at certain angles for a much longer amount of time to start picking up. So before I start doing anything today, I need to get some of my cassettes shipped out. Some of you might not know, but I run a few music labels around kind of like dub techno and ambient music. If you've seen any of the videos on the channels, we do cassettes, and I need to get some shipped out because we had some orders last night. It's always such a nice feeling to send out stuff that you've made. It's nice to know that there are people out there that are willing to buy what you make and support you. Hopefully one day I will do kind of more stuff to sell with this design that. That is one of my aims. Maybe it would be something that I make in terms of like tools. I'm thinking about maybe selling the proofing press that I made, or maybe just artwork. I guess in a way, this is selling my artwork. I produce all of the artwork and the cassettes in this room. If you are interested in the process, I'll put a link at the top. You can see we've got lots of process videos of all of the previous ones that we've made, actually, all of these three. And the artwork that you saw at the beginning of the vlog is going to be used for the next release. I've got quite a few lined up in 2021, so I'm really happy about that, because this is just a great way for me to keep on designing and making things. If I didn't have this label or labels, I wouldn't really have much reason to make artwork. For me personally, I'm not someone who just likes to make artwork just for the sake of it, or maybe you just stick it up on my wall. It's got to kind of have a use to it, and that is why I started screen printing and started turning the screen prints into cassettes, because then they get a use. It makes them special as well. They stand out quite nicely compared to like a typical mass-produced cassette where it's just maybe printed on a laser or an inkjet. I recently got labels. Before I was doing this with just normal paper and using loads of sellotape. Trust me, if you are doing any sort of packaging, if you're sending things out quite often, I don't want you to think that I'm doing this every single day. I do not sell cassettes every single day. I wish I did. Maybe I get a few orders every few weeks, but man, just using sticky labels, you can just print them on your inkjet, you can stick them on your envelope, and it just makes things so much quicker and easier. Also, with COVID going on at the moment, I don't need to go into a post office, or I don't want to go into a post office. So the fact that I can just do all of the printing, I can buy the postage at home, I can just pop it in a post box and it gets there. It's really good. So we're back printing. It's another really nice bright day. Being very lucky in December at the moment. Anyway, we've done the print and it didn't really come out too well. So what I've done is I've taken off the vinyl and I've actually just etched that a very light tone. You can see that it's just picking up. Now, we were able to pick up one line here in terms of difference in tones, but the various different kind of angles that I've left the plate in, it hasn't really picked up. All it's picked up is just this one little line here. And you can see that in the print, it comes out, the line comes out. I'm pretty pleased with the results, actually. I really didn't actually plan on this being an etching press. I built this as a proofing press for stuff like letterpress and for relief prints. And honestly, I was actually planning on either building or maybe next year actually buying a big etching press. And the reason why I want to do some bigger tests like this with a bigger plate is because I feel that for what I need it for, which isn't probably going to be super detailed, really large etchings, this kind of does the job. I mean, I like the rough texture that you get with this. This is why I really wanted to do kind of plate etchings, because all of this texture, it's very hard to replicate that. And even just all of these little tiny scratches, can you see those little lines on this bit? This is where it hasn't been, I'm not sure if you can see it, but you can see here, these are just really fine hairline scratches on the plate, and it's even picked up those. I love that it picks up all of these little hairline marks. It just gives it character that, you know, you just can't really do when you're doing things digitally. So I'm going to continue to etch this and see what I've got. I've got a really weak solution of the copper sulfate mordant here. You can see that it's really lost its blue colour, but it still does etch. The weaker the solution, I think the more delicate of the bite you get. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dip it back in there. I'm going to see if I can create some more lines across this plate and just try and get some variation in tone. So let's dip it in. It should hopefully etch. Even though the solution is really weak, you can see still getting bubbles rising to the top here. So I know that it is still etching. You can see we've kind of built up a few more layers. I'm hoping this is going to print, so we're going to take it out, we'll give it a wash, and let's have a print with it. So this is day 3 of doing these etching experiments. It's actually in the afternoon now. I've just finished doing some freelance work, and I've just been posting some videos or scheduling some videos on my other YouTube channel, which is the music channel. This is typically how most of my days go. It's kind of like broken up between doing YouTube and my personal work, and then obviously earning money, which is mostly through freelance work. Now I can come back to doing the etching. I've actually been etching the plate during the daytime while I've been working. I've still not really got it looking how I'm imagining this in my head. The plate is looking a little bit better. You can see that it's actually picking up some different tones now. So I'm hoping that when I print this, you know, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to pick up these lines and this tonal range. Also, what we've done is we've switched over to using relief ink. This is the first time I've done this. It will be an interesting experiment. The etching ink that I was using is Charbonnel, and it's original etching ink, so it's oil based. I really love the Safe Wash relief ink. I've even ordered some Safe Wash etching ink as well, so we can do multiple tests. But basically, I've actually done a test print with the relief ink, and if you have a look up here, you can see this is the relief ink. Again, it's not really picking up any sort of tonal range. It just kind of looks like a square and a circle. You can pick up like one faint line here, but that's about it. But anyway, while I've been working, I've been etching the plate. We've got much better contrast now in these areas. So we're going to do a quick test print, and we'll see if we can get it looking how it looks on the plate. Ooh, that is pretty close. Maybe I wiped off a little bit too much ink, but you can definitely see some tonal variation there quite well. So it makes me think that perhaps, you know, maybe I haven't actually etched it deep enough, because these areas that have been, you know, nice and deep etched, they're coming out really well. And I mean, I don't expect it to be perfectly even in terms of its tone at the top, because when I'm etching it, I'm using the vinyl as a mask, and it's seeping into the vinyl, so it is actually etching it in all of the places when I dip it into the copper sulfate. So we'll end it there. I'm probably going to clean this up. I'll put some more vinyl mask on it, and I'll dip it in the mordant. And then probably tomorrow, which will be Friday, we'll probably do more test printing. So stay tuned.